Hello, my name is Sheila and I would like to welcome you to my podcast All About You. I love to listen to podcasts and especially conversations with famous people. However, I think everyone has a story to tell. Maybe a place you have visited, a hobby you enjoy, or anything that you feel would be of interest. I want to have conversations with lots of different people and hear their stories. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on my email, allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com. Well, I'm back here with Cameron on a very, very, very cold New Year's Eve morning. We've got our cups of tea, so I think we're ready to go. So Cameron, welcome back to All About You podcast.
Thank you for having me back, for carrying on these stories. That one podcast that's slowly turning into a full series.
Well, this could be a new thing. It could be a new thing, but it's New Year's Eve. I can't believe it.
Where did 2020 go?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that's probably a pod for another day.
Yeah.
But okay, so where are we starting on your continuing journey?
I think we had just got to All or Nothing. I was in the back of a taxi.
Right, remember the back of the taxi?
In the back of a black taxi on the way to a rehearsal room. When I got there, it became a bit clearer of what I was doing. So they were producing a show called All or Nothing, which was the story of the Small Faces, a 60s mod band with Steve Marriott in it. I had never heard of them before, didn't know any of the music, I didn't know anything.
Small Faces were a big band.
They were huge.
Yeah,
now I love their music, and it became a big part of the music I listened to, and I love them. But then I had not a clue. All I knew was it was from the 60s. So the writer / producer was a lady called Carol Harrison, who used to be in EastEnders. She played Tiffany's mum in EastEnders.
Oh, I remember the days of Tiffany.
And she'd written this story. It was basically the Small Faces were the backdrop to her telling the story of the 60s in that time. And it was August bank holiday, and we were going to Brighton. They were doing a short snippet of the show in Brighton, and they needed a choreographer, but they didn't actually have any dancers. So then starts the ring around to find 3 dancers.
This was obviously a well-planned production then.
Yeah. That's definitely a story for another day. So we got the dancers in. She said, "Can you just do something for me to see that I can, make sure you can do the job?" I choreographed probably 8 worth of choreography, a really tiny little section of probably the worst choreography I have ever created. Single-handedly, ever. It was awful. But somehow she thought, yeah, you're good, we'll have you.
She saw the spark in there, even if, as you say, the choreography
it was awful. I look back now and think, oh, wow, that was bad. So that was it, really. And then I was introduced to the director, who was no other than a guy called Tony McHale, who is the guy who created Holby City and has a couple of BAFTAs to his name. I didn't know this until I left that night and was like Googling all these people.
It's like, oh, good grief.
And the next day I go in, raring to go. I'd spend all night watching Small Faces documentaries, and because I was told continually that everything had to be as it was. So all the dances had to be of the 60s, not kind of that camp copy of 60s movement that you see a lot in musicals. So I spent all night watching this, watching that, watching everything I could. We go in the next day, and who should be stood there as playing the lead but Danny Dyer? For those of you who don't know,
that includes me.
He's on EastEnders now, but he's quite a tough. He's an actor. He's much more famous now than I think he was there.
Right, name rings a bell.
He's quite a tough kind of. That's
a bit of a geezer bloke.
Yeah, that's his character. His character was a proper kind of Cockney North
Right.
So it was lovely. We had a great week of that, and at the end of the week, we performed in Brighton, and Carol asked me if I would continue on as the resident choreographer of the show.
Oh my God! So we've gone from the worst
routine
ever to
a job.
Love it, job done. Let's carry on.
But then for musicals starting, and I learnt this lesson myself years later. getting people to pay and fund those musicals are expensive, and to get people to fund them is practically impossible. At the time, the producer of The King's Speech, the film, was interested in the story, but that never seemed to go anywhere. And there was a lot of stops and starts for this show. There was a lot of, we're doing this, no we're not. We've been given this, no we haven't. Here's the money, no we haven't. That went on for about 4 years. In the meantime, that show had odd bits and bobs. It would do a one night here or in kind of workshops, but it never went anywhere. So I thought, oh my God, I've got a job, how wonderful. And then nothing. So in the meantime, I was still auditioning. So that was August bank holiday. October kind of time, I went in to audition for Chicago. I was one of 500 and something.
So this is the London production
of
Chicago?
So Royal Caribbean, the cruise line, had Broadway shows put on their ships.
Right.
So they were slightly shortened, but it was all the Broadway choreography, the Broadway team. You were taught by... I'd been on so many cruises as a kid, on holidays on Royal Caribbean ships, and I'd always thought, what a cool life this is. Like, to see the world, perform, get paid exceptionally well, and not have to pay rent and food. And
that's
you wake
right,
up in a new... So in I went, I was one of, 500, if not more.
God.
Queued up out of Pineapple Dance Studios, all the way down the road, and then all the way back round the other side. So the line went on forever. Luckily, I got there early enough. In I went, and auditions are quite... I'd been to the Chicago audition probably 6 months previously with people from college, and I got to the finals, and then I'd got cut at the very last moment. So I thought, okay, we'll try again. So I was determined to do Chicago, and Chicago wasn't in town at the time in the West End, and it wasn't looking like it was going to come back for...
But that was on your wish list.
Yeah, it was the only thing I really, really wanted to do. So off I went, got through one round, and the 500 turned to 300, into 200, into 50, into...
So it's basically a knockout competition.
Oh yeah, it's like a cattle call. You feel like a cow, just a prized cow, whether you're going to win or not. So we went down through, we learned all that jazz, and then we learned... the amazing thing about doing a show on a ship is I did Chicago 3 nights a week, and then I did a show called Blue Planet, which is like a Cirque du Soleil style show.
Okay.
So we had the audition for that and Chicago on the same day. So they were learning this, do this in a group, do this with 3 groups. I need to film you now, we need to fly this to America, all this kind of stuff. The casting director for the Broadway production of Chicago was in the room as well, Duncan Stewart. And the day went on and on and on. I'd arrived at 7, so I was at the beginning of the line, and it just carried on and on and on and on. And it got to about 6:30, and we were asked to sing. Now, the first time I'd gone in, I got cut after the singing. So I was really nervous about it. I am a singer, I do sing, but it's not my main strength. And my audition song was Corner of the Sky from his show called Pippin, which is a Fosse musical. It's perfect to audition for, but Duncan Stewart had just cast Pippin on Broadway. He'd heard that song 1,001 times, and I thought, no, you can't sing that.
You can't do that.
So how I got this random other song from Kiss of a Spider Woman, out he came, you put it on the pianist's little thing, and off he goes. You have no idea whether that's going to be a good pianist, whether he's going to play it how it's always been played, fast.
So there's no way you can have a conversation to say,
you can have a conversation, but whether they choose to listen to it's brief, and you kind of have to say, start here, end here, thank you. By this point, I'd kind of got a good feeling from the panel that they remembered me from the time before. They really liked me. So I started, and I went dreadfully. I went one key, the panel went another key. It was dreadful. They stopped me and said, okay, what else have you got? Because this isn't... I said, I've got Corner of the Sky, but I didn't know if you were bored of hearing it. He was like, no, I love that song, get it. So I sang Corner of the Sky, and they say, thank you, we'll be in touch. And that's it. You
so they give you no idea?
They give you no idea. You're given a bit of paper.
It's by this time, it's a process by the sounds of it.
Auditioning is an awful process, and it gets no better whether you're the other side of the panel either. Now I spend more time the other side of that table, it's still as dreadful.
Because you've got to get the job done as quick as possible.
You've got to get the job done as quick as possible, and you can't give people answers because a lot of it depends on things that are out of their control.
Yes.
So, actually the girl, I've got 3 blondes, so I really need a brunette, or I can't have another blonde, but actually the blonde's better, but
So it's not often about the ability of a person. It's just
it's got nothing to do
what
with
you actually need, the physique,
I don't actually
the style.
think 80% has got to do with talent, because I think by the time you get to that point, everyone is as talented as each other.
Yeah.
So I'm in this room, and there's probably about 10 of us left from all over the world. Actually, we were from all over the world. There was a girl I'd made friends with from the States, a guy from Scotland, all over. So we're all kind of sat there, and they say, "Thank you, we'll be in touch." That was the October. I went to go to do panto. I've not heard it. They say if you've not heard in 6 weeks, sorry, you've not been successful.
And so you don't even get a letter to say thanks, but no thanks.
No.
Oh my God.
You often find out you didn't get a job by the press release of the cast being announced, and
Oh,
you're not on that
okay.
list, and you think, "Oh, I didn't get that then." So I waited, and I was in panto in Sheffield, and my phone bings, and it's Royal Caribbean saying, "We'd like to offer you the job of Chicago. Your contract begins February 11th. You'll need to be able to climb a 30-foot rope from top to bottom with just your hands, and do so many other things like that for the aerial show. You fly to Miami, because you rehearse in Miami. You fly to Miami, you'll need to go and get all your visas and stuff from the American Embassy before then."
So you need to sort all that out. They don't help you.
You have to get a medical, which costs hundreds.
Yeah, I should imagine trying to get a working visa for the States is like, like giving blood.
It literally is like... So anyway, that process was surprisingly, I found that process quite easy. It all I had some friends who had done it before, and little did I know that actually most of the people I'd been in that room with at the end of the day got the job as well.
Wow.
So a few people.
So once you got that phone call from Royal Caribbean, what did you just? Oh my God, I can't believe it! Or did you think, oh yeah, I forgot all about that? And...
The 6 weeks was a bit of a blur, I think, because I knew I had to do all this kind of stuff. I was still doing a job. I was in panto, so I didn't really have time to.
Yeah, you'd moved on a bit from then, thinking, well.
Yeah, you just kind of go.
Yeah, that's how it works, I guess.
And I think then I was hit by the fact of, oh God, I'm leaving home. I'm going to Miami, and I'm going to live on a ship for 11 months.
Oh my God, so that's a bit different.
It was a huge... It came with it kind of came in stages, like, yeah, I've got the job. Oh God, I've got the job. Oh. And my agent then, so it was quite hard work to get him to let me take the job. He didn't want me to leave the country.
Because you're under contract for the...
Well, also then once you're on... I could finish my contract of panto, but it's more once you're out of the country for a year, you can't audition for anything else. Okay. And when you get back, it's almost like starting again. And,
yeah.
So off I went as 20. Was I 20? Yeah, it was 20.
That's quite young.
Very young. And I felt...
You felt
very young. So I was the baby of the cast by quite a clear mile when I arrived. Some people had done the show before.
Right.
Some people had studied Fosse for years and years and years. There was kind of just me like, hi.
Right, so I guess that's got its pros and cons.
Has its pros and cons, yeah. So I arrived in Miami, flew in, they pick you up from the airport, they take you to this rehearsal space, and that was it. And that contract changed me as a person completely. We were there for 10 months. So you rehearse in Miami for so many months, and then onto the ship. I did the Caribbean for 2 weeks. It was a contract of change for me. I grew up an incredible amount.
And very fast, I should
Very
imagine.
fast.
Yeah.
I came out. I fell in love.
So not much happened then.
No. My heart was broken and then mended again. It was one of those contracts that now if I could go back as someone a lot older, I wouldn't make half of the mistakes I made or do half the things I did, but I'm quite glad I did.
Yeah, well, I think we can all say that, can't we?
In hindsight, there's some things I think, why
Yeah.
did you do that?
Yeah.
So, and that was incredible. I did, Chicago was, and I got to play Spirit, there's a character in Chicago called Spirit of Fosse, and he kind of appears, it's almost like a bit of a magical elf and I got to play that, which was incredible, an experience. The cast was amazing. I had a great time. I had 9 months of pure bliss.
I was going to say, how was life on the ship? Did you get much free time?
Yeah, you got all the time. So I worked Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. We did Chicago. Wednesday, Thursday off. And then Friday and Saturday we did Blue Planet, which was the aerial show, which I did quite a lot of flying in.
Wow.
And I was given a big solo in that show, which was gorgeous. But other than that, yeah, you'd wake up and you were in St Martin, or you were in St Kitts, or you were in...
So you do get downtime. You're not expected, because I think on a lot of cruise ships, aren't all the entertainment staff at night there with the feathers and sequins, during the day they're calling bingo numbers and... Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good thing about Royal Caribbean is you don't do that.
Right.
And especially when you were the casts... So I went on the Allure of the Seas, which is the biggest ship in the world.
Which one?
The Allure of the Seas.
Oh my God.
At the time, it was the biggest ship in the world. It has an ice skating rink, an aqua theatre.
Oh, good grief.
A real life park in the middle of the ship with real trees, a carousel, a Starbucks. So that in itself was a bit like, oh wow, this is a floating city.
Did you have like a pinch yourself moment?
Yeah,
was at 20?
I had a lot of those during that contract.
I mean, at 20, so much has changed for you personally, career-wise, leaving home.
It was a huge,
falling in love, falling out of love. I mean, it's just an awful lot going on.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I loved it. It was an incredible time. And then it came, and then it ended. So I arrived home December 5th of that year. Went straight into choreographing a panto.
And where was this? Back in Skegness?
It was in Spalding, that panto, which is
okay.
near Peterborough, kind of like, so close to home.
Right.
I literally arrived back on the 5th and was in rehearsals on the 6th.
Oh my God.
So I had like kind of jet lag and kind of didn't know who anyone was. But, and then it was a new year. I felt amazing. I just finished Chicago. I was going to take on the world. I was going to be in every show going. I had this whole long list of things I wanted to do.
So your confidence had grown, the experience,
I felt
had grown.
Stronger as a performer. I felt stronger as a person. I'd kind of come into myself. I felt like a bit of a butterfly then. And then nothing happened. It was radio silent. No one wanted to see me in auditions. Any audition I did get in for, I was cut first round. I thought I was going to come home and be inundated with offers, and there was nothing.
So, I mean, that must have been such a particularly difficult time for you after coming off of this long residence on the ship, straight into panto. So you were just running on adrenaline non-stop.
Yeah, and then it was just like...
nothing, and it's a bit like, yourself, when you've had a really, really busy day, you keep going, and then when you stop, you literally just collapse in a heap because...
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. It felt like it hit a brick wall.
Was that your body? Do you think you
No, it was literally there was no work. No one wanted to hire me. No one wanted me to do any jobs. No one wanted me. I couldn't get into an audition. I had one of the best agents in London, and he couldn't get me seen for anything. And it took its toll mentally.
It must have done.
Probably more than I realised at the time. Now I look back and think, oh God, you were very close to a bit of a mental breakdown. I was in a relationship that wasn't healthy. It was quite toxic, in fact, which wasn't helping the
so you weren't getting the support in your
no, there was no
life.
support there whatsoever. And my relationship with my parents had changed significantly because I now was an independent human being, and they wanted their little Cameron back,
and you weren't that person.
I wasn't
anymore.
that person anymore.
No.
So there was a lot of change for me to try and... Everything felt the same. I walked into... Everything felt the same, but everything felt completely different
because you had changed.
Nothing had changed. No, nothing else had changed, but I hadn't.
But you had, yeah.
So I was in London. I'd earned quite a lot of money from the ship. The great thing about the ship was it was really good money. And for the first time I had money. And therefore I spent it like it was... Someone was going to take it off me.
So what did you buy?
My first purchase was a £400 Ted Baker coat, which I still own today, and I still wear it regularly.
Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with investment purchase. I'm all about the investment purchase.
But did I need the coat? No. Did I have the 400 to spend? Really? No. And that kind of started a year, really, of kind of literally working to live. So I rented a flat in Blackheath in London, which was stunning. I loved my flat in Blackheath. I fell in love with it. I loved Blackheath. By this point, I'd got a teaching job on a Saturday, which was kind of bringing in... So it
was teaching dance or theatre?
Yeah. Like in a drama school kind of setting. Oh, okay. So 3 years, babies, middle, bit older, 3 hours on a Saturday. Bish, bash, bosh. Done. But that was nowhere near... I think that was like 80 quid. That was nowhere near.
So that wasn't going to fund your lifestyle?
That was not going to fund my lifestyle that I'd become accustomed to.
Yeah, after nearly a year of champagne
And also,
caviar.
you have a ship where you can just walk into a restaurant and grab a glass of wine and it's free.
Well, yes, that's true.
You walk into a restaurant in London and they go, "Oh, that'd be £19, please." And the plastic can only go so far. So off I went. I thought, I'm going to have to get a job here. And I found a job. It's actually my favourite job I've ever had. I started to work with autistic kids. Non-verbal, as a TA. I taught English, maths, science.
So teaching assistant?
Teaching assistant for autistic children.
In a school?
In a school. On an agency basis. So I was sent all over the place. But then I was put into one school with the same 9 children who will always have a very special place because they were just incredible children. And that's where I stayed. I kind of almost forgot that I was a performer. I was there 6-7 months.
Wow.
And loved it. I'd go into work every day, 9 to 5. They weren't easy shifts by any means. They weren't but I didn't have a problem lying on the floor pretending to be a snake or running after them around the park. So I clicked with a lot of them, especially a couple of them that were really didn't say anything, couldn't express things, and we found a whole nother level of being able to communicate. And I was very lucky in the fact my other job that actors have to have or performers have to be able to live and eat, and I loved.
I mean, I guess because you had worked in theatre, you were used to using your body to communicate, as you say, non-verbal language, and that's
what they rely on, your facial expressions.
Absolutely.
And I had no problem in sitting under a blanket for an hour and having them squeeze your hands. I had no problem with any of that. So I loved that job. Probably a little bit too much because it made me forget the other. Okay. I think if you hate your other job, you become a little bit more passionate about making the main job work. But I found a job that I could have left performing behind and done that for the rest of my life.
So you could have had a complete U-turn and...
Absolutely. I had a 1-day shift in a little school with he was a nursery year old, only 2, and he hadn't made a single noise since he was born. Other than obviously crying as a baby, but he hadn't made any kind of verbal...
No communication.
No communication whatsoever. And I was there for a day, and sometimes you're left with a whole class, sometimes you're put in one-on-one with one child. And he was adorable. He was a beautiful little boy as well. He was so cute, and I was put next to him. I was told, you just have to kind of make sure he doesn't eat anything or...
Just make sure he's safe.
And I was like, that's not going to be enough for me. And by the end of the day, he was singing Old MacDonald.
In one day?
In one day, on a little bike.
Oh my God.
And the school offered me a full-time role as special needs coordinator for the whole entire school. Off a 1 day, because she said, I've never seen anyone do that.
So where do you think this, I think it is a gift as well as an ability, where did that come from? Have you always been good with kids?
Yeah, I love children because I think, for me, children are, without sounding like I'm about to burst into a Whitney Houston song, children are the future of us. Yeah. And I find it much easier to pretend and live in this fantasy world with a kid or speak to someone who is 60, 70 year old. I've always struggled to communicate with the people of my own age because I just can't connect with people that age.
Because you've obviously got a gift then and this ability for working with these special needs
And it's
children.
funny, my twin does the same thing. And my mum is always, we always say if, where she works, if someone with special needs comes in, they beeline to my mum to speak to her and feel safe with her.
There's obviously something that these children are picking up on. It's a vibe, an aura, whatever you want to call it.
So, yeah, I could have left performing behind. I really could have left performing behind. And I was very close to leaving performing behind. And in that time, my best friend was having the same trouble as me. She was doing the same job as me. She, in fact, got me this job. She wasn't being seen. She wasn't getting any work. And as a jokey conversation, we said to each other, we should just start our own, shouldn't we? Never. Things like that should never be said. Because that jokey conversation turned into us opening our own production company.
Yeah, but see, I disagree with that. I think, particularly in the situation we're in now, because obviously we are in the middle of the COVID pandemic here, I think a lot of people have now revisited their life in general and thought, okay, I'm not particularly happy, I can do my job at home, maybe I can go out on my own as a consultant. So yeah, I think often when you're up against something, a spark goes off. Yeah.
And it kind of grew and grew. It tumbleweeded quite quickly, and before we knew it, we had a production company and we were opening a show in London.
Oh my God.
Neither of us had any idea what we were doing, which has become a bit of a common thread through my career.
Pros and cons,
I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'll just blag it until I can either make someone else believe that I can, or find someone who does.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. I think that's called now.
Fake it till you make it. I should have a degree in blagging. And we opened a show. It's called Personals, and it was written by the people who wrote Friends. It's all about dating and personal ads in newspapers and things. And it was incredible. I still don't know how we did it, and there are 1,001 stories from that tale. I don't know how we did it. We got 5-star reviews. We sold out the week.
And where was this put on? Where were you?
A place called the Landor, which is just in Clapham, in London. It was quite a big fringe theatre at the time. It's closed now, unfortunately, but then it was the fringe venue to be in. We made the set ourselves. We had to kind of source costumes ourselves. We had a budget of about £1 to open the show. There are too many stories of that show, really, that really can't be repeated for people to hear.
Yeah, we need to protect
we would definitely be arrested for some of it, I think. And that was amazing. And we did that. So it'd been a year from really arriving back from Chicago up until the December of the next year that I'd just been one thing after another. I'd just been a bit all over the place. And it really was a year of roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Struggling financially, especially after the show, the personal show. I hadn't worked for a month because I'd been producing a show. And the show, although made money, didn't make enough money to cover that cost.
So you couldn't take a salary out of the show?
We took a bit, but...
Basic, just to keep...
Very, very basic by the end of it. And so actually we both ended out of pocket. We'd achieved this wonderful thing, and it's a memory I will cherish forever. But
that didn't put money in the bank, though.
No, it didn't put money in the bank. And at the same time, it's lovely to say, we all work for our passion and our art.
But we need to be fed, and we've got bills to pay.
Yeah, I've got to eat, and I've got to live. And so it got a bit close to I was literally waiting to be paid the next.
Yeah, you were living like day to
day.
day.
It was a really... I went to Crawley to do a panto that year.
What was the panto?
Jack and the Beanstalk. I feel like I've been stuck in Jack and the Beanstalk I've done it like 4 or 5 times.
Because I used to live in Crawley, and was that at the Hall?
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
And we had Phil Mitchell from EastEnders.
EastEnders, yeah.
And it was such a wonderful panto season. I'd commute in from London every day. But it's my favourite contract I've ever done. It was only 8 weeks long, but it was just wonderful. I met some incredible people. I think I laughed on a continual for 4 weeks. It was almost like living, I forgot everything else was existing and happening. And then January hit. Again, after pantos, it always goes a little bit quiet.
Yeah, nobody's got any money. Everybody's like had enough of going out. And
I was back in another school teaching with a little boy who was adorable. I loved him to pieces. He wasn't non-verbal. We could conversate. He didn't have a lot but we could have a conversation. And I just kind of sat one day and thought, I don't know how much more I can do with this. I'm getting to that point where I either go and do a dance therapy course, like a degree in dance therapy, or I do something else. And I got to that point where I couldn't do much more. And it kind of was a turning point. Yeah, definitely a turning point there. And then again, January hit, February hit, and life changed again. But it was a hell of a year from Chicago to there. Yeah.
So within that year, we've had career highs and lows, we've had personal highs and lows, separation from your family, growing up so quickly, leaving at the age of 20, and all of a sudden, you know, you're the youngest of everybody on the ship, and the experiences, the money worries, and new projects with your friend, and putting on, you know, a show. So
yeah, year
well,
of
I'm
incredible highs and
exhausted
lows.
hearing about it.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible, and the fact that you crammed so much into such a short time at such a young age is just amazing. So I think we need to stop and have a cup of tea.
Yes.
And then we'll do
finally
part
finish
four,
this tale.
Well, I am thoroughly enjoying this, and especially you talking about Crawley, and I'm pretty sure I remember seeing the posters for Jack and the Beanstalk.
Probably.
But yeah, okay, so we're going to leave it there with Cameron for now. So Cameron, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm keen to hear where we
we're
go on
next.
now. So thank you very much, Cameron. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget, if you have a story you would like to tell, please get in touch. My email address is allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com, and thank you for listening.